forgot to let the video run, so we need the video. Okay, now that we've had the proper video introduction. So I guess, let me start with just an open question, which, is this the best of times for marketers, or is it the worst of times for marketers?
Great opening question, Scott. I believe that we are in the middle of a perfect storm right now, which has lasted for about 2 years, at least specifically within my area of expertise of programmatic media buying. We saw, firstly, with the ANA Transparency Report a couple of years ago, everything really began to kick off, and the curtain was pulled back, I think, on a lot of really questionable practices that were going on in this space. Followed by, I guess, Mark Pritchard's speech last year at the IAB Tech Leadership Summit in Florida, where he really sort of called time on a lot of those practices. So I think the industry is very much under scrutiny right now, but that threat, that danger, that chaos also represents an opportunity for CMOs and technology-focused marketers to actually take control back of their supply chain.
Yeah, I reckon that first of all, I tend to say to my students and to my clients that the internet is the tool that marketeers always pray to God to have, because of a number of reasons, including the main thing, which is the gathering, using, and helping decision makers to take their more rational decisions. So in this sense, it might be the best time to be a marketeer. However, because of the ubiquitous technology, and everyone apparently know how to run campaigns, know how to set up Facebook pages or using landing pages, you have a sort of a huge mass, especially in the markets that I work with constantly, which is Latin America and more recently Portugal. And the main problem in this sense is that you have a whole set of gurus and specialists that are trying to, not trying to, but they are confusing the potential clients, the enterprises, the companies, in what is actually good, not in what's best, what best suit them. So it's a bit tricky. As Michael Porter said, it's very damaging to the market to have poor competitors. So we need to move carefully to start to actually moving towards the proper marketing as it should be.
Hello, Scott. Hello, everybody. Nice to have you here with us. It's very interesting because we have your United States view, your British view, your Portuguese and Brazilian view, and now I'm going to introduce my Spanish view. I think here in Spain, I see two kinds of marketers. There are ones that they really are nervous because they don't know what is happening with all this digital technology, with all this digital strategy. And there's the other ones that are passionate about the profession and they are willing to have better knowledge of what is happening now, how do they improve their business with these kinds of tools and with this kind of change in the customer. So I think it depends. No, it depends if you are a great marketer or if you are really behind the digital strategy.
Yeah, it depends very much on if you look at it as an opportunity or something to be just concerned about. I guess let me ask this: so that crazy marketing technology landscape, all these different technology vendors. Now, normally, if you are a buyer, you like a lot of competition with your suppliers, right? The more choices you have, in theory, the more price pressures you bring to bear, the more innovation choices you have. That competition is supposed to be good. But sometimes it doesn't feel that way. It almost feels like it's too much. And so I'm kind of wondering, what is the line there? How much competition should there be in marketing and ad
I would never be one to say that competition is a bad thing for business, but I think specifically again within the ad tech sort of silo of marketing technology, we have had a situation where I think we could call it chickens coming home to roost in some sense. So you had over-leveraged companies, you had huge swaths of VC money from a few years ago, which is now fundamentally, I think, causing a lot of pressure. You've got companies who are in a race to the bottom, in many senses, and who are forced to look for ways to generate margin where there simply isn't any. And I think that's not necessarily good for marketers in the current environment.
Okay. Again, in addition to global players in terms of providing technology, providing solutions from different type of organizations, from small to the largest, I also understand that you have local players trying to have their own space in particular markets. So for instance, HubSpot, of course, all of us know that is one of the tools that help the most marketeers to find a way throughout this avalanche of options. And for instance, we have in Brazil RD Station, it's also coming to Portugal. It's a great player, very customized to the local market. So there is there's a positive view on that. However, again, quoting someone else, Barry Schwartz from Harvard, he studied a lot how damaging it is to the market and also psychologically to people and to professionals to have that vast sort of options. And this is something that makes us too anxious. And sometimes because of the pressure of taking fast decisions, perhaps we may choose the wrong path. And a couple of years later we will understand that, but it might be too late depending on what market you are playing on.
As Nino said, when you go to a supermarket and you see that there's a lot of kind of juice, as apple juice for example, you get scared, you don't know which one to choose. So I think in the next few years we're going to see two things. I see it in the digital marketing space, in advertising for example, in digital, there's a monopoly, a duopoly between Facebook and Google. We all spend our advertising dollars or euros mostly in only these two players. And in the vendors part, we are talking about software, for example. I see that when you are a CMO and you have to choose which technology you are going to put inside your company, the first thing they ask is you have to talk with technology. We have to see if that integrates perfect with our actual technology. So if it doesn't fit, you don't have any choice to use that technology.
And I think more generally, the point really should be made that for many of the companies that a CMO might look at as a prospective enabler for them, the simple question of whether they deliver a valuable service, whether they are a feature rather than the company, to use the phrase coined by I think it was the former CTO of AppNexus, which is a fantastic concept. You know, are you a company? Are you bringing me real value? Are you bringing me closer to the consumer or further away? Or are you just a feature?
And Sheila, are you going to exist in 2 years from now?
Another great.
Sorry, just adding to James. I think one of the issues is that despite of the fact that I totally agree with both James' view and Fernando's view, the thing is usually the person that is in charge of choosing whatever solution the company will adopt, they might not be as well informed or even capable of doing that decision. So it's pretty much as when I go to choose a present to my wife in her birthday. You go to a shoe store, for instance, which should be easy to choose any shoes, But if I'm not capable enough knowing my audience, knowing what is the contingency of that particular moment in the company's time, and my wife's time, that particular age, which is even a greater challenge than learning about companies and the market, then you might think that you are doing the best choice, but then again, it's very difficult because the other side, the buyer's side, normally, at least in the markets that I've been working with, they are not that mature enough and well informed enough to make the best choice for their clients or their company.
Yeah. But I definitely want to come back to this discussion of who should be making these choices and how they make them. There's something else you guys said here that's really interesting, which is this idea of, is it a feature or a company? I would propose you could map this to that Gartner pace layer model. You could say, listen, for my systems of record, for my foundation, what's more important than anything is really that stability, to know that the vendor I choose there is going to be with me for the long haul. But then maybe up in that systems of innovation, this might be a place where if there's a particular feature technology that has value to my particular market, I might be willing to experiment with it, but I keep it in a much tighter box. So I guess my first question to you would be, what are the systems of record? What are these primary systems that marketers need to be very careful about who they're selecting as their vendor?
So perhaps I'll take that question just in the context again of programmatic media buying technology, as it's the area I'm sort of most familiar with. I think the tool of choice and the sort of essential platform for any large brand, together with their agency or perhaps independently, is a DSP, a demand-side platform or a real-time bidding platform. This is still very much the backbone of, I think, a lot of companies' full digital transformation. And it's essential to understand, I think, what's actually happening under the hood with these platforms. So, how are the mechanics working in your favor, or are they? Are they aligned with your actual business goals? Will they deliver true business outcomes against metrics which you decide are valuable to your business, not proxy signals for success, which can be gamed, frankly. And I think that's probably within programmatic media buying the most important decision that a CMO will need to take is, which DSP is being used to acquire media on my behalf? Is my agency making the right decision on my behalf in that context? Is my agency's business model aligned with my own goals, in addition to the technology platform being used? Because frequently, there isn't a convergence or sufficient convergence in the goals across the three players in that paradigm. Yes, that's.
Well, and just one quick follow-up on that. What about the DSP I get? What about the DMP, the data management behind the DSP?
Very timely question as we celebrate the eve of GDPR. The DMP is still, I believe, an incredibly important tool in a marketer's overall tool set. I think the idea of consented users is becoming extremely topical with GDPR. I think there's still a huge degree of uncertainty, but I believe that's why the convergence of MarTech and AdTech will continue to abound. But I believe that when you have consented users and signals against those users which you can store in a first-party environment, and you can activate against that first-party environment, that's still going to be key and central to any marketer's success, digital success.
Here in Spain, I think we are a little bit back in the DSP market, because we are seeing that the huge companies are investing now in DMPs, but I think the first party they are deciding is in a lower level, is the CRM, and is the ERP or the CMS if we are talking about the website. We are not, I think we are not prepared to take decisions about the DSP as the way you said, Sharon, because I think even the great companies of this country, they are not spending their money in that technology for now.
Although again I agree with the three of you, I will tend to think about perhaps 2 steps even before reaching that point. And of course, might be for the same reason as Fernando's, because the markets will be different moments, isn't it? So I think that the first issue to be addressed is about the strategic drive or strategic vision of the company in the long haul. This might be the first issue, even before everything that we are discussing at this point. Once they are more confident in that path that they should or they will be taking, I would put in the center of the ecosystem, if you will be the intelligence bit. Then we can go to ERPs, CRMs, and whatever intelligence solution you will be using to act as a sort of core to other decisions to be taken. So if you don't know, you're not that confident about your strategic path, and it is of course across the entire organization. And after that, if you don't have a proper center of this ecosystem, or what will be the ecosystem, well based in an intelligent view that will help you to grow as things are going better and more mature in the company, regardless of the option, whether you're going to think about DMPs or the advertisement or agencies, it will tend to fail if this more solid basis of your future steps do not take correctly.
Okay, so I get a pretty good picture there of those foundational systems in both AdTech and MarTech. Do you guys have examples of what are things that you would see as features or point solutions or stuff that aren't those core systems, but you would think, well, actually, that's okay to be a point solution. It's okay to use that piece for that one thing.
Yeah, taking to the view, I think will be easier for the companies to, in specific situations, to use a particular solution or the other. So one of the, let's say, the easier quick wins will be to go to the client side, or the side that is closer to customers, which would be the raw digital marketing aspects. So everything that has to do with landing pages, email marketing, or a minimal integration with a CRM, perhaps starting to take you on board the sales bit, the IT bit, together with marketing. So you will have quite a few options that in the short view, will help you to start playing with digital market as it should be, take a bit of more confidence, showing to the board that it's possible to have good results, motivating them to then perhaps invest in a more robust ways, and bring better players and better partners to your side.
In the short term, probably for the innovation side, I think artificial intelligence, for example, for chatbots or for something like that, small pieces, probably they can work with them outside their actual technology.
I think for me, 2 good examples are probably viewability and fraud detection. Viewability is a tricky one because I think you've got a double issue of too many companies trying to establish viewability metrics, which again are not aligned with most advertisers' needs, because I believe each advertiser has a specific definition of what is good viewability for them. Fraud detection is also a funny one because I think many of the companies that exist in the space are actually continuing to fuel unwittingly or not, the fraudsters, because for every algorithm change they make, they set a challenge or a new bar for the fraudsters, which is a disappointing and perhaps simply unlucky state of affairs, I think, for this space. That said, I think, coming back to viewability, I think many large marketers that we have spoken to are beginning to very seriously think about defining their own viewability standards, combining metrics that they can track with best-of-breed technology in order to come up with metrics that are actually very relevant to the customer touch points that they have in their analytics, and that they can derive true insights from against their own business goals.
But just adding to that, then again, it will depend, of course. Usually the correct answer in marketing is always depend. So let's take, for example, the work that we helped the NFL, National Football League, and starting to properly enter in the Brazilian market. Despite of the fact that they were able, in terms of maturity and the marketing professionals, their partners, and the financial capabilities, their goal in that particular moment, a couple of years ago, in Brazil, was simply to create an awareness of American football, for obvious reasons, and to raise the audience. So they were simply looking into having more Brazilians populating their social networks and digital properties. So in a way, if you think about the discussion that we are taking at this moment, was something extremely simple, extremely easy in a way to make, because they were not looking at much further than that. Their expectations or objectives at that particular moment was very simple and very, low level, if you want.
Maybe on that point, Nuno, can I ask you a question? So for the NFL, do you think that in North America, for example, where they're advertising to Latin American users, that, for example, 2 seconds of video as a viewability metric is a relevant sort of indicator of whether the user's attention has been captured at that point? Bearing in mind this is somebody potentially who has never been exposed to the NFL or American football. So if they watch a 2-second ad, is that, do you consider that to be sufficient?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I with different words, I mean the same questions to them. And my answer to you would be no, or perhaps, but probably no. It's something that is too, it's too basic and it's too low level, as I mentioned. Despite of that, and of course, I think they were completely aware of that challenge or the issue or the contingency and their approach. However, because of in Brazil, people, most of them never heard about American football, and most of them were not that into NBA, for instance, much more popular, of course. I think they were on purpose. They were moving much further down the line or lower the line to make just volume. It's pretty much that. I understand what you're saying, and I understand what Shane will say to you in a couple of years from now, but we need only to look at volume. At this point, you don't need to care about anything. I don't want money, I don't want the conversion, I want to have the more Brazilians as we can populating our social networks. And however interesting and peculiar that was their their objective, and we are trying to help on that. But of course, you're completely right.
So I want to go back to a question that we raised earlier, which all right, now we've got these systems of record, and there's this other set of stuff we say systems of innovation that are okay. But who's making the choices as to who to buy these systems? Who's going to operate these systems? And this again might be interesting between the ad tech and the martech world.
I suspect this is a loaded question, because I know that you have spoken in the past specifically about the emergence of the CMTO, the chief marketing technology
It's one
officer.
option.
Yeah. And I fully align with that. I think it's essential that the modern CMO, if they don't have a computer science background, they should have as close to a computer science background as they can. Or if not, they should hire people around them that do. Otherwise, you simply cannot make informed decisions. And an integrated marketing strategy over technology is simply not going to be possible. You're not going to be effective. That's a short answer, but
I think that we have to prepare the CMOs to work better with the IT department. The IT department is the ones that decide which technology you can use or you can't use. So in the Spanish Marketing Association, we are working to put the CMO at the board level so they have more power to negotiate with the IT departments, because I think they have to see the technology as part of the business. They don't have to see what you presented. It has no sense that if you put a petition to the IT department that they, okay, well, I will do it, but in 6 months, or okay, I will do it, but in 1 year, it has no sense. So I think that the agile in the marketing departments is incorporated, but I think they have to incorporate it also in the IT departments, because we need, as marketers, we need velocity with implementations.
Yeah, this is very interesting, very interesting. Then again, if you look at global or major brands, they will have a CMO and or a CDO. They will have someone that probably be quite experienced in marketing. And this guy will make the decisions, and that will be fine. However, this will not be true if you look at, for instance, small and medium businesses. And depending on the market, even some big companies. So sometimes you see that intern, that lower level or manager, that is the techie guy or the informatics guy, he will at least influence the board decision. So this is quite interesting depending on what's the type of companies that you look at. However, interesting enough, yesterday on a panel, on a keynote that I gave on the CDO Summit, I went to move a couple of years in the future and question that because it's increasingly more difficult for us to separate technology, marketing, innovation, and even the concept of digital, perhaps at some point in the near future will be the CEO that will have that ultimate challenge of bringing whatever innovation will be, whatever digital will be, or robots or artificial intelligence to the company. So although now will be the ultimate marketing decision, the manager or head of market or a CMO, whatever it is, this will be, in my view, so natural to companies and so natural to our marketplaces and society and people, that perhaps will be one of the main or the regular business as is competence and roles of the CEO. He will be the guy that will be able to make those decisions, because it will be as simple as, you know, taking a cup of coffee with a potential partner nowadays.
But I think in that point, Nino, probably it's time to have previously a change of generation in the CEO level, because the people that are now in the CEO level don't have that expertise.
So in the situation where a business doesn't have this calendar experience in-house and they need to turn to an agency or a consultant to help them, I guess in some ways this is just shifting the problem. It's like, okay, well, how do you evaluate which consultant or agency to buy for this? Like you brought up the issue of alignment earlier. You know, how do I make sure that the service providers I'm working with here are aligned to get me to the right technology?
I think the landscape will improve. I think the number of companies, agencies, intermediaries, from agency to publisher consumer, will diminish, and the unscrupulous or the questionable practices that are visible today, I think will disappear over time. That's my hopeful outlook for the future. And I think the reason for that, there was a study by Adobe earlier this year where they reported that 2 out of 3 major marketers will bring programmatic media buying in-house in the very near future. So with that on the horizon, I don't think companies who simply don't add value, who simply cannot offer the services that a marketer cannot develop in-house, I don't think they can continue to exist.
Yeah, first of all, I wish that Shelbyville will be the reality as soon as possible. I also wish that, honestly. However, I try to help my clients to, whenever take that decision about a potential consultant or a potential agency that will help the company, to be as rational as possible. So perhaps I was lucky to at some point in Brazil to help the federal government of Brazil in their public competition of hiring suppliers to make a series of rational points to decide, first of all, to pre-select, to make an initial short list of potential suppliers, then to evaluate them in as rational way as possible. And in addition to that, I try to advise clients to, before make the final contract signature, to go to visit this potential consultant, supplier or solution in person, to see how they operate, what's the real team, what's the current office, and more tangible aspects to help them to assess whether what the promise that the supplier is being made to make the sale is the reality that they will eventually deliver. So things such as, let's talk to their clients, let's talk to other people that have bought them, and to see whether they are happy and whatever they are promising me is true or not. So this is quite difficult, especially in markets where you don't have a solid and well-established brand as the main agencies, main solutions, and main consultants. So you need to make everything that's in your reach to take sure that the promise will meet the delivery of that supplier.
To add something more, I think that the CMOs don't have that in mind yet. I think that they try to have business with an agency or a consulting firm, but they don't know which technology they are providing behind. And I think they don't know the importance that is for them to know which technology they are using to do some kind of things.
There are a few notable exceptions, particularly in the context of which agency to use. I think, was it Gerhard Love, the CMO of Deutsche Telekom, recently issued a statement where he said, we're not prepared to work with an agency anymore who forces a percentage of media spend model, pricing model on us, which I think was a real battle cry for and ultimately what he's doing, I think, is shortening the list of prospective candidate agencies who can qualify to pitch. 2018, we've seen more accounts up for review than we ever have done in any previous year. So I think there's an opportunity for agencies to reinvent how they engage with prospective clients through improved business models that incentivize them to actually deliver a service and align better with the business goals of their clients.
If you do a landscape of agencies and consulting firms, they're going to be the same that the technology behind.
Oh boy.
However, just adding to Shane's comment, we tried to do a sort of an experiment when I was doing a work with Toyota in Brazil. Of course, they had a considerable budget for advertisement. I'm only looking at the digital aspect, and we challenge agencies in that specific way. We say, listen, instead of us giving you a fee, I don't know, I don't care about the amount of the fee, but instead of this, you can earn much more than this if you are a sort of a partner of mine. So I will pay you according to what you actually deliver to me in terms of businesses. And the potential amount was 3 or 4 times more than what they will be charging us in a regular fee. None of the agencies were keen to cope with that experiment, so they were very reluctant. And in a way, I think that this is something that will be unstoppable. At some point they will have to start to work only on a performance basis, and this will change radically the agency's market.
I agree it will. Whether their balance sheets are set up, agencies, to actually support that change though, is really questionable. I mean, you see, I think one good example is in the UK, where Group M's trading desk entities Axis have rebranded as the outcomes-based agency or service. I'm not quite sure what the exact name is, but that's significant. Now, I think it will remain to be seen whether they are actually delivering business outcomes, but it's, that's real change, I think.
Okay. This is a Pandora's box. We could have a whole conversation just on changing agencies. We're almost out of time. I want to ask one last question, so about a minute each. On the eve here of GDPR, you talked a little bit about this earlier, but what would be your takeaway for the audience of how GDPR is going to change the marketing technology landscape?
In 1 minute, I see that for some marketers it's really a challenge. They don't know how they can do to communicate with some kind of customers in the near future. I think that it depends on the legal advisors they have inside the company, that they let them do some kind of things or don't let them do some kind of things. So probably we're going to see more inbound marketing. I think that's a great notice for us. But I think, for example, that the spam is going to continue as the way before.
Yeah, I remember on my academic side in the late 90s, I read an article and the title was "Privacy will be the gold of the future," something like that. And now we have GDPR. I honestly believe that it will take time for any company, the major ones and the smallest ones, to cope with GDPR. And of course, the spammers or the black hat people, they will find a way to bypass those rules. But then again, in a couple of years, this will be natural. So we don't even remember about GDPR. Now it's a shock. And some people, probably the largest companies, they will be affected. They are already being affected in terms of processes, some investments, but this will be natural at some point. So I wouldn't be that scared of the GDPR unless you are a player that now is completely depending on exchanging information and keeping information of your customers.
Last word.
Since you mentioned spam, I think we should probably give email a shout out. I think email marketing is going to become even more effective post GDPR with the cleanup that will inevitably sort of ensue from tomorrow. Within display digital marketing, I believe that it will become more difficult to reach consented consumers. That's a given, that's well understood. I think the technologies that enable marketers, agencies to reach their customers are playing catch up. They fundamentally are not ready for tomorrow D-Day. However, in all of this, the consumer is actually not referenced that much in much of the debate in the run-up to GDPR. The legislation is designed to protect consumer privacy. Lest we forget that. And I think that can only be a good thing for marketers if they choose their vendors wisely, if they choose their agencies wisely, and healthy practices follow the change in legislation. Then I think that can only be good for advertisers and for their customers.
Terrific. Ladies and gentlemen, please, round of applause. Great, thank you, Shane, Nino,